So before I begin, I'd like to start out this video with a shocking commercial I found.
There comes an age in life when you find out what hands are really for. Donkey Kong Country 3 by Nintendo.
I was just looking for the sports channel, Gary.
Yeah, that's real. However surprising their adverts may have been at one point though, Nintendo always has been a company with primary focus on video games that anyone can enjoy. This consideration has led to backlash in the belief that the company is too kid-friendly, an image that Donkey Kong Country 3 as a game certainly didn't help resolve at the time. The reasons this title seems to cater to a younger audience? Well, the secondary protagonist in DKC3 is literally named Kiddy, that being Dixie Kong's toddler cousin. The opening credits and game over screens even feature childlike aesthetics, with their wooden hand-crank xylophone and a baby crib with alphabet blocks. I will say that it still very much retains that creepy factor, with the music box sound and a door closing shut though. The Game Boy Color and advanced versions don't help this with their inferior hardware. But getting back on track, even the first level feels less serious than the previous games do, with an environment that reeks of summer camp. So, how could this game, especially coming from DKC2, possibly be as dark or surpass that of its predecessors? Well, to answer that, let's back up a bit. Before even starting, we can learn from the instruction manual the basic premise of this game. Both Donkey and Diddy are missing from their last adventures. So now, in an area that's neither home nor the recently sunken Crocodile Isle, Dixie must locate the two lost heroes. On top of that, K. Rool's gone too with a robot named Chaos, now supposedly leading the Kremling army. Do you see the picture I'm trying to paint here? There's an unfamiliarity in the air, an atmosphere that makes the player almost uncomfortable. This presents itself with the new overworld music, which isn't silly or sinister like its predecessors. It's mysterious, just like this intro, and much like the game itself. Many people criticize this third entry for not following a singular theme, as DKC did with its Jungle Trek, and Diddy's Conquest with the haunted swashbuckling adventure. While it does seem that this third game is without direction at first, it most certainly does have an overarching theme. It's simply less obvious and harder to pinpoint, though that only works to make it all the more eerie as it displaces the audience. DKC3's theme is modeled after the Industrial Revolution, a shifting period starting around 1760, where factories began replacing small-time handmade production processes. Don't believe me? There's plenty of evidence. An abundance of mills in the first world, as textiles were the leading industry for jobs at the time, and recurring technological progression throughout the game. These wheels aren't going to power themselves. On a side note, the German name for this level can be translated as various screams. Wow, let's take that in for a moment. Getting back on track again, there's a level with a giant saw blade, which I now assume is making lumber for the mills. The world it comes from is called Mechanos, a step up from the original Donkey Kong Country's subtle nature versus technology message I had mentioned via Kremkroc Industries. In this game, we actually see a direct consequence of Mechanos' smog. It's affecting the ecosystem by inhibiting flower growth and causing disarray to the local Brothers Bear resident. The extent of the pollution is mentioned only by Bramble, but we see firsthand quite frequently implications of its effect within levels not exclusive to this world. Chaos Core, for example, has a stage straight up titled Poisonous Pipeline, featuring purple water that inverts the left and right controls. A real-world effect from submerging in this liquid could be quite scary, but regardless of speculation, it's clear this toxic water is meant to inflict some sort of disorientation when exposed. This isn't the only example either, as Low G Labyrinth sees the Kongs traversing yet another pipeline, this time with gaseous green fumes that slow them down. My point is that while DKC introduces the concept, DKC3 fleshes it out so much to the point where this is almost inarguably the direction these developers wanted to go. Two levels have gimmicks involving poison that influence the Kongs, and another, the giant saw, that can be visual fodder for the concept of forest destruction. I love DKC3's focus on pollution and its Industrial Revolution motif, reasons why it's my personal favorite of the trilogy. and deserves to have been covered for dark aspects. Unrelated to this theme, but significant to the overall anxiety-ridden presence the game presents, is the song Waterworld. This is, in my opinion, the darkest music track to ever find itself in a Donkey Kong Country game. Credited as Eveline Fisher, but now known as Eveline Novakovic, is to thank for this, the replacing lead composer and sound director for this third game. Being no stranger to the series, she really does a spectacular job crafting her own OST here, worthy of admiration amongst the very best of video game tunes. The other underwater themes, Aquatic Ambience and Lockjaw's Saga by David Wise, can be summed up as beautiful and epic respectively, but this game takes a different approach and primarily centers around the horrors beneath the surface. This song invites feelings of helplessness and everything off-putting about the sea in one melody. 2 of the 3 stages it's featured in are fairly diseasing to boot, as the first requires a stalking fish that must be fed to finish, or he'll bite you, costing a Kong, and the second a ride through darkened reefs with an illumination mechanic. With that stated, I'd like to now discuss the bosses. While not as outright menacing as these icons, I'll note that the game does have a neat gimmick with its boss locations on the overworld. Check out these evil faces, though they admittedly can resemble what a small child would draw to be scary. Speaking of childish, while some of the bosses are silly concepts like an anthropomorphic burping barrel or an abominable snowman, they all have one thing in common, and that is irritated big red eyes. K. Rool's always had this going for him, but apparently it's infectious in the northern Cremisphere. Look at all these. When they're all eventually defeated and the unconventional pair make their way to Castle Chaos, it's finally learned that K. Rool really was here the whole time, influencing his army behind a literal curtain. There's nothing worth mentioning here in terms of dark aspects besides the boss's electrocution sprite, a Frankenstein homage in form of the Baron K. Roolenstein persona, and the fact that Donkey and Diddy were used as human, simian batteries for Chaos. Not quite disturbing at face value, but thinking more can be quite unsettling when considering that their life force was most likely what powered up this machine. Additional things to note, this is the last game to feature Wrinkly Kong alive. She canonically dies somewhere after this game and before Donkey Kong 64, where she remains a spirit for every following title in the franchise. Furthermore, to wrap up this trilogy, I feel it necessary in surfacing one last anecdote. I was terrified of error message screens that appeared when a game wasn't working as it should. This is commonly found when the cartridge or disc could not be read. DKC3 would have terrified me in this sense, as it has a very creepy anti-piracy measure hidden within the code. Along with this warning text, the game over image pops up with the boss music playing in the background. Super unsettling, but a brilliant way to deal with pirates. No, not those ones. And with all that, I bid you farewell, as that's all I had for dark aspects on the original trilogy. I might be back for more Donkey Kong and analyzing Retro Studios' take on the Country series, but for now, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you for more.